I've got a fresh take on the latest from the cycling world, and I'm not here to recap a race as a boring reporter. I'm here to think out loud with you, what happens when a champion faces a setback mid-season, and how it reshapes his chances, strategy, and the broader drama of Spring Classics season. Let's unpack this as a creator who loves spotting the patterns beneath the headlines. First, the hook. Mathieu van der Poel is chasing a comeback, not just a win. He's dealing with a hand injury from Milan-San Remo, and yet there's already chatter about defending his E3 Saxo Classic title. The paradox is juicy. You don't usually win a big one when you're still healing and tinkering with equipment. So what's really going on under the skin of this narrative? That tension, between on-paper frailty and on-camera confidence, drives the story. Context, but with age. Van der Poel crashed ahead of the suppressor in Milan-San Remo and, as footage and post-race comments show, he could barely hold his handlebars after the crash. The left hand was bloodied, the grip compromised. You don't recover from that instantly, and yet elite riders train to use pain as a feature, not a flaw. My read is, this is as much about mental resilience as it is about physical recovery. The mind can compensate for a lot if the body's not fully ready, but it's a tightrope walk. Idea 1. Adaptation under pressure. What stands out is how quickly he pivots, switching to new handlebars, adjusting grip dynamics, maybe rethinking hand position mid-season. Personally, I think this is a microcosm of competitive sport today. Athletes must be adaptable hardware-wise and strategy-wise on the fly. What makes this interesting is that it reveals the constant feedback loop between body signals and gear choices. If you take a step back and think about it, a rider's feel is an invisible variable that can swing outcomes as much as watts or pacing. Commentary and interpretation. The choice of handlebars is not cosmetic. It signals intentional risk management. It's a small adjustment with potentially outsized effects on control, comfort, and, crucially, confidence. In pro cycling, a few millimeters matter. A new lever reach can change braking timing and cornering trust. My read is that Van der Poel is optimizing for consistency in the faces of unknowns, crashes, fatigue, and the brutal Flemish spring tempo. Idea 2. The timing of a comeback. The E3 Saxo Classic is a big stage, but not the peak showdown many imagine. This makes the decision to race, and to defend, a study in strategic patience. From my perspective, the move to race before fully recovered sends a signal: I'm still here, I'm still competitive, and I'm calibrating the line between risk and reward. What many people don't realize is that athletes often gain value from showing up early, press momentum, testing the gear, and building unpredictability for rivals who think they have the measure of you. Commentary and interpretation. If he wins, it amplifies the narrative of no pain, no gain and cements the idea that the season hinges on grit more than flawless health. If he doesn't, the story shifts to resilience in adversity and the long arc toward the big races later in the season. Either way, the public dialogue becomes about what victory means when you're not 100%. It's a reminder that in sport, readiness isn't binary, it's a spectrum and a storyline in motion. Idea 3. The broader trend, riders balancing recovery, gear tinkering, and media narratives. One thing that immediately stands out is the modern athletes need to control both the narrative and the hardware. What this really suggests is that performance today isn't just about training plans, it's about a holistic loop: injury signals, equipment tweaks, race decisions, and brand storytelling. A detail I find fascinating is how a single race can become a testbed for adjustments that ripple through the rest of the season. Commentary and interpretation. The piece of the puzzle that often goes under the radar is the psychological impact of soft wins or near misses early in the season. They shape rival perception, sponsor confidence, and rider self-talk. From a broader perspective, This era of sport is less about perfect prep and more about adaptive preparation, a dynamic choreography of body, mind, and gear. Deeper insight: if you connect these strengths, a larger pattern emerges. The Spring Classics aren't just about who pedals fastest, they're about who can reinterpret a race plan in real time when the road throws a curveball, who can turn a setback into a narrative advantage, and who can keep the team cohesion intact while shifting gear and strategy under pressure. This is the essence of modern endurance sports: resilience plus tactical flexibility as a competitive edge, amplified by media and fan attention. Closing thought: the real takeaway isn't whether Van der Poel wins or loses in the next race. It's how this episode illuminates a bigger truth about high-stakes sport: readiness is a moving target, and identity is shaped as much by how you respond to disruption as by your peak numbers. So, what does this mean for the season ahead? It means every race becomes part performance test, part psychological case study, and part epic chapter in a longer, evolving career story. If you're watching along, I want your take. Do you think the handlebar switch signals a sustainable edge, or is it a short-term fix? And how do you think this will influence the dynamic with rivals like Pogacar and the rest of the field? Share your predictions and any angles you think I missed. I'll be reading the comments and responding in the next video.